With training camp finally beginning for the Washington Wizards, the intensity has ramped up, and this team is trying to lay the foundation and create a culture. What does that look like? We tell you today on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
DC family, you're locked on to the Washington Wizards. We're part of our family. We thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe and join the DC family to continue helping us grow. I'm one of your co-hosts, Ben Strober, and I cover all things DC sports for 106.7 The Fan and the T980. Alongside, as always, my great co-host, the host of the DMV Sports Zone page, Abdullah Ayubi. How we doing, AB?
Training camp full effect here for the Wizards. I can't wait. Intensity looks great, Ben.
You know what I can't wait for? NBA YoungBoy concert tonight. That's what's on. That's what's second on my mind right now. Right now, we got to get through the pod. We got to talk about the intensity ramping up through the first day of training camp, some of the observations we've heard through the first 2 days of practice, and then I'll get ready to go crank some YoungBoy all night long at Capital One Arena, actually. So I'll give you an update to tell you what it's looking like over there ahead of the regular season. But let's get into it. We'll get a little bit into effort and how they preached that in the press conferences this past week. Will Dawkins did last week, then a media day from head coach Brian Keefe. And then a big conundrum with the Wizards TV situation. YouTube TV and Hulu unfortunately dropped Monumental Sports Network as part of the programming. I'm going to talk about that today and what that might mean going forward, and tease a guest that we have coming on tomorrow to break down some more information for that. But right now, AB, what's been apparent from what we've heard the past couple of days since we've been in the Wizards facility and heard everyone talk about what the organization has been up to this offseason, it seems like they've made a real conscious effort to do their best to lay a foundation. And I think it's pretty difficult to really lay the foundation you're looking for to establish culture, because I feel like you need to win games to establish a culture. I feel like culture is kind of just a buzzword that will get thrown around. Sometimes it doesn't really mean anything. If you're a Washington Commanders fan, you heard Ron Rivera use the word culture all the time, but there was no damn culture. We were losing games all the time, and Bruce Allen said the culture was actually damn good. So people can say what they want about culture. You can tell everybody that your culture is what it is when it's not really the case. Now, but the Wizards, though, I feel like they really have done a good job getting the organization and getting the players involved to buy into the vision for success that comes within the future. But it all starts with what they're doing right now. And based on what we've heard about the first couple of practices, we heard that there's a lot of energy. So I saw Josh Robbins, he tweeted, I think Chase Hughes tweeted as well. They weren't able to actually physically be inside the facility during the practice to see exactly what was going on, but there was a lot of chatter, a lot of energy, a lot of yelling and cheering going on from within the facility. So it sounds like the intensity is ramped up quite a bit from what it was last year. And ultimately, I think that's a good thing for establishing the meritocracy that you were trying to form here for the Wizards organization. If everybody is competing and is on the same page, and it leads to you actually, finding yourself a lot closer to winning more games than you were last year, even if the win total doesn't really go up by that much, I think that's kind of laying the foundation. I'm not going to make the proclamation that the Wizards have already established a culture, but I think they're driving toward the idea of it right now.
And I think that intensity, Ben, filters out those that are willing to go out there and play come regular season time. This is great. I saw clips of Trey Johnson going at Sharif Cooper. Sharif Cooper just got here, and that's what I love to see. It doesn't matter how long you've been here as a Wizard. It doesn't matter what you did on your previous teams. Right now, what Will Dawkins, what Coach Brian Keefe wants to see is who's going to go out there and compete when you're wearing that Wizards jersey. And I can't wait to see how this team comes opening night, because this is what we're talking about. Defensively, this team needs to be better. And again, it starts with being able to rebound the basketball better, being able to protect the paint. So many games last year, we lost the paint battle, and it was just a constant theme. And going back to what you were saying when it comes to culture, I agree, Ben, it is a buzzword. You can throw that word around so much, but if you're losing on the court when people are really watching, what are we getting at here? But I'm hoping that the Wizards this season will change that trajectory.
And I found it interesting throughout head coach Brian Keefe's press conference that he threw that word around so much, how it was part of the process when it came to selecting which players they would take in the NBA draft, who they brought in via the trade, who they brought in free agency, culture, character. was all part of it. And I feel like character-wise, they are very much in the right direction compared to years past where you have a guy on this team like Kyle Kuzma that's not bought in to what this organization was all about. He was a name-on-the-back type of guy. That's not what you need when you're within the situation that the Wizards are in right now. You need everybody that is about the name on the front of the jersey. Kyle Kuzma was absolutely not that. He said, I'm not really with all this development. I'm going to go out there and get mine. Now, you know who is a name on the front guy is CJ McCollum, who they brought in, of course, to trade. Jordan Poole departs from the franchise, who was looked up to as a leader by a lot of these young players. That was some of the questions that came up throughout media day, especially for Bub Carrington. They said, hey, obviously Jordan Poole is traded away from this organization. We know that he was kind of a veteran leader for you guys despite his young age. What did that mean to you? And a lot of them said, like, Jordan Poole was super instrumental in what we were able to do last year. He helped us keep our head on straight. He was in the gym first. He would be the last one to leave almost every single day. So a lot of good things they were able to say about Jordan Poole, but you got an even better leader that comes in the door with CJ McCollum. He plays at a high level, and he's been a guy that seems like as he's gotten older, he's actually gotten better because I think the way he has learned to evolve in the game of basketball over the past couple of years is really what has separated him from a lot of his peers as he's gotten older. He has found different ways to take care of his body. He's figured out the formula, what it takes, to sustain yourself over a long season. I know last year he, of course, battled some injury, and he talked about that a little bit, but he's 34 years old now, so that's something that you maybe would expect. This is not the same thing as a lot of these young guys that you have on this Wizards team, a couple of 19-year-olds, multiple 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds. CJ McCollum is instrumental in what they're going to be able to do in the future because he is teaching these guys what it takes to win basketball games. Now, necessarily, you might not see it directly on the court, but he knows exactly what he's talking about. He's telling him these are the winning time habits you need to create in order to create a foundation of winning when that time does come.
It's crazy, Ben. We're talking about young guys. I think it was a reporter on Media Day that asked Keyshawn George, 21 years old, you're one of the oldest guys on the team, and it's just like, that really puts into perspective how young this Wizards squad is. But going back to CJ McCollum, Chris Miller, shout out to Chris Miller, he mentioned the fact that he called his 50-point game against the Wizards last season, and then CJ said, quote, I am in better shape now than I was when I dropped 50 against y'all, which is insane to me. And a guy like CJ McCollum, when this Wizards team is in a shooting slump or they can't get it down offensively, when they can't get over 20 points in a quarter, that's the guy that's going to make a difference. Not only does he bring that wisdom on and off the court, but a guy can go out there and get a bucket for you and hopefully set up shots for Keyshawn George, Alex Sarr, who's going to hopefully be in the paint more. He wants to take more shots in the paint. You put all those things together, CJ McCollum is a D1 veteran.
And I want to see the head coach, Brian Keefe, be part of this equation for development and laying the foundation for culture. And I know Coach Keefe kind of gets a bad rap from this fan base because a lot of people don't really believe in his future with this organization. I know there's a lot of people that, quite frank, wish they would have got somebody else a little more established last time around, but that wouldn't have made any sense. Who would have really taken the Wizards job knowing that they were going to enter a full teardown? But Brian Keefe definitely has a job at hand right now. And one thing that stuck out to me in the 2023-24 season is when Wes Unseld Jr. was finally relieved of his duties in the middle of the season, we saw a dramatic shift in the effort we saw defensively from guys on the floor, and overall the intensity increased. And I'm not sure if that was just one of those situations where you have a new head coach that kind of ignites a new fire under you in a way, and that's why the effort increases from maybe the coach that had lost the locker room at one point. But I think right now BK is in a pretty good spot in terms of his relationships he's developed with the players. A lot of the players had really good things to say about BK, how he's been in contact with them throughout the summer. They've been working with one another, trying to check in and see how everyone's doing. I think, the track record speaks for itself from what Keefe has been able to do in some of his very stints. He was on the San Antonio Spurs championship staff back in 2007, doing video stuff back then, but still learning from some of the best coaching staff under the tutelage of Greg Popovich. I think there's a lot of lessons that Brian Keefe has been able to learn, and now that he's finally get the opportunity to do it at the head coaching level, you got to see it happen over the course of the season. Now, at times last year where you lose 16 games in a row multiple times in a season, I know it's not a great look for a guy like BK, and you could say, well, guys are starting to play out a system, the effort isn't quite there. I think it's going to be completely different this year. I do not expect to see anything that bad in terms of losing games straight or just seeing the effort dwindle down to what it was at one point last year, because I think if you're BK, that your job in the future is certainly not a lot. You're not a lock to be here by any means. When by the time this team is ready to officially take its ascend to where it wants to be, so I think BK is going to get the most out of this team that he has right here. It just seems like he is ready for this moment right now to lead these guys.
Not only do I love his resume and track record, Ben, but I defend him the same way I defend Will Dawkins. Look what he was dealt with when he became a head coach. It's just a lot of disarray, and there wasn't really a balance between young guys and veterans on this team and trying to maximize trade value, but also you want to develop and make sure you don't hinder that 2024 draft class of Bub, Keyshawn, and Alex. And now that I think this year we're going to see we can really assess BK and can he be that head coach here for the long term. I'm hoping he can because of what he did in OKC. And I go back to the fact, man, like Wizards fans are going to say, why don't we go after Tom Thibodeau? Why don't we go after Mike Brown? Like you mentioned, why the heck would those coaches come in this situation right now? It doesn't make any sense at all. The fact that BK is a guy that's been here, you want him to be here because he has that longest tenure here compared to the other candidates out there. It just makes sense. And like you mentioned, the young guys believe in him. And that's what you want, a mutual respect between players and coaches.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of belief, and it goes both ways, from the front office to the players to the coaching staff. Everybody needs to be bought in and on the same level. And I just think back to the Summer League when it began. It was a pretty tough effort in the first game out there against Phoenix. Kind of got ran out of the gym on opening night of the Summer League. And then there was the image that went viral of Coach Keefe, Bob Carrington, Alex Sarr, Keyshawn George sitting down and having a allegedly very serious conversation. And then the very next day, the effort looked completely different. So, I'd love to get in the head of Brian Keefe, or really maybe even be able to ask him and say, what was that conversation exactly about? What did you say that exactly ignited the fire in these guys? But that's like the level we need to see when it comes to the regular season, because they played their asses off against Brooklyn in that second game. Alex Sarr looked like a completely different player. He was not tentative around the rim. He was fierce. He did everything he could to protect the rim, and he got a Summer League record in blocks because of it. So we need to see that kind of Brian Keefe, somebody that can ignite a fire and have these dudes play like it really matters at the end of the day, because I think it's tough when you're in a situation where there's not a lot of pressure on you to win a bunch of games right now. And maybe that makes it more difficult as a player and say, like, hey, why do I got to go out there and really give it my all if, like, the goal at the end of the day isn't really about winning, it's just about development? Well, you make the argument, the closer you get to winning by competing in these games, that's a signal that you are developing. You got to play with your hair on fire, because nothing is given, everything's going to be earned. Isn't that exactly what Will Dawkins said last week? Brian Keefe reiterated that message. If that's the message right there, that needs to get through to the players to say, hey, I got to go out there and I got to prove to this organization why they took me, why they believe in me, and why I can be here long term when this is ready to be a playoff team.
100%. Couldn't have said it any better, Ben.
So much to unpack through the first couple days of the season here. The effort is something that continuously we're going to have to monitor as time goes on. But so far through the first couple of practice, we've heard some pretty decent things. Let's continue to talk about effort and what we expect here in 2025 when we come back on Locked On Wizards. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet. Player props, same-game parlays, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game even more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Now, AB, I kind of wanted just to throw this question at you because I know when you were doing the podcast toward the end of the season last year, when you were brought on for a period of time, you had the opportunity of really watching these games with super close intent. I'm sure you've gone back and even watched some of these games. Just from your perspective, when the team lost 16 games in a row, how did you see the effort decrease? Like, what exactly on the floor wasn't up to your standard, I guess you could say, effort-wise?
I think, obviously, the whole idea of 50-50 balls, it just didn't seem apparent for the Wizards. That's one thing that I looked at it. And outside of rebounding, Ben, just the closing out, the perimeter defending, it was just atrocious. There were times where I was just like, you're just letting them shoot threes. And in today's NBA, everyone wants to shoot three-pointers. So if you're not out there trying to defend the three, it's hard to win games. And on top of that, the stagnant offense, it was just a guy, predominantly Jordan Poole, dribbling the ball and just what really wasn't much going on. And then on top of that, Kyle Kuzma before that, the second half of the season, it was him taking crazy half court shots or just for no apparent reason at all, and it hinders the development of young guys like Keyshawn, Alex Sarr, and Bub Carrington. But one thing that now that I said the negatives, one thing that the second half positives was Alex Sarr looked so much more confident. Ben, that 34-point game against the Denver Nuggets, I was like, this guy's gonna be a star. He's gonna be a stud. We've seen the proof in the pudding. And on top of that, Bub Carrington hitting a game winner on the last shot of the regular season. He mentioned that his confidence was here during the game winner, after the game winner. Now it's here. And it's seeing guys like that, Keyshawn George, having that international experience. I really think this summer a lot of development went into play, and I can't wait to see how it comes out during this upcoming season.
Compared to last year with Keyshawn George, we've seen a new level of confidence to him, and I'm not sure if that's directly correlated to some of the transformations we've seen with his body, the broader shoulders, the increased strength and muscle mass. But from what we saw from him in the AmeriCup and how he asserted himself, he was a guy that could score, really playing at a 1-4 position as a spot-up shooter, or he could just put the ball on the floor and get buckets himself. Do you think we're going to see some isolation opportunities for a guy like Keyshawn George this year? Is that something that's going to be in his repertoire, you think?
Oh, 100%, man. I think what we saw in the Summer League, his ability to just back someone down, and I know it was Summer League competition, but I just know that's going to translate. His fadeaway mid-range shot, his ability to take someone to the rim, bumping into Common Malawach, who's way bigger than him, but Keyshawn George has been hitting the weight room. He got bigger as well in this offseason. I think he's a guy that definitely, if he needs that ISO shot, out of all those, and there's a lot of guys on this team that I would love to see, Trey Johnson, CJ, Cam Whitmore, but Keyshawn's definitely up there.
And I think Brian Keefe said one thing they wanted to do offensively this year was move the ball a lot more. They had too many empty possessions last year because of, just inefficiencies they had when it came to ball handling. They weren't able to operate well enough out of the pick and roll. I think with the personnel that you have right now, you're going to see them be a lot better at moving the basketball. They should look a little more fluid offensively. And I think a lot of people asked Alex Sarr if he had been working on setting screens and operating out of the pick and roll, and said, yeah, like timing has kind of just been really was the biggest issue for him last year. So he's been working on that, knowing when to slip, positioning yourself in the right way. And then ultimately, you got to have the ball handler in place that has a pass-first mind. And the way they've talked about Bub Carrington, they really seem to be high on him as a pass-first player, even though it doesn't really seem like that, or that wasn't really the rap on him after last year. But maybe with the new mentality and based on the role that he knows he's going to have, he's developed that. Other things as well, they said that Trey Johnson has gotten better as a passer. That's come up like 4 different times over the past week, which is really interesting to me because you can rant and rave all about his shooting and how good he's going to be offensively, but those aren't even the things that they've really bragged about that much to us as members of the media. They say, yeah, he got better as a passer, believe it or not, like super quick and defender. So I think it just also shows how they're going to develop in terms of just being overall more versatile players. And if you have guys on this basketball court that can pass the ball pretty well, whether it's from the perimeter or operating out of the low post, because Keyshawn George, sneakily pretty good playmaker when he actually gets the ball down to the low post. There are multiple occasions last year, if you just go back and watch his tape, where he's kind of got a knack for just knowing where guys are going to be on the basketball court. He's very quick and decisive in how he makes decisions, delivering the ball to players down from the low post. That's an underrated aspect for me. And if you have guys on the outside that can shoot as well, I think everybody's going to benefit from that.
I think a pick and roll with Keyshawn George and Alex Sarr is very underrated as well, Ben. If Alex Sarr can hit that stride and be that athletic freak that we think he can be, on top of that, defenders are going to have to close in on Keyshawn, and Keyshawn could take him to the rim. I mean, again, Keyshawn George, I'll keep reiterating it. He is what Will Dawkins is trying to build here, the human embodiment, the versatility, a guy that can do it all, a guy that can guard 1-4, that can take someone off the dribble, that can post up. He's just a jack of all trades, and I really think, and it's crazy because back and forth this whole season we're going to be like, this guy's going to be the best out of the three, this guy's going to be the best, this guy's going to have the most potential. We can make a case for every one of these guys, and Bub, Alex, and Keyshawn, of who's going to be great.
I was kind of thinking about this because given how deep the team is in terms of players that need to play, I'm not saying deep like they have a super talented team that's going to win a bunch of games, and it's deep because they have really good players that are going to be on the bench. Who do you think is going to be the odd man out, at least at the start of the year, where we're going to be saying, hey, why is this guy not playing more than he is right now? Do you have an early guess for that?
So I think when it comes to odd man's out, for me, you got to start off with CK. Unfortunately, I think he's just him being defensive liability compared to the other guys, and just the 3-point shooting, we kind of have it with Trey and Keyshawn and a lot of these other wings. I think Will Riley is probably going to not crack the rotation until maybe the second half of the season, at maybe earliest, maybe like 20 to 25 games into the season. And out of those two guys, outside of those two guys, Ben, I don't know. I mean, do you have anyone in mind?
I think Kispert is the easy answer, and I kind of like Corey Kispert. And I believe it or not, I know a lot of Wizards fans have been ready to see him exit the door for quite some time. Probably just a little bit of bias because he's from the previous regime. They don't really see a long-term fit here, and I understand that because, even me, I question where the long-term fit really is with a guy like Corey Kispert. But he's another guy that I think is actually pretty good in terms of establishing and laying a foundation, and he's a guy that's gotten better as his career has gone on. He's improved himself offensively. He's gotten more aggressive, something that he talked about the other day. He said, if I'm more aggressive, it's going to help me out and it's going to help the team out. So I get the understanding of where he is, and he's the one that really embraced the whole idea of the Wizards being a meritocracy. So I think going forward, he might be a guy that is more limited in his role, but based on what he is as a culture guy and also just an offensive spark plug, I think he'll find some ability to crack this rotation. But Will Riley probably seems like a guy that if there's an injury or something like that, maybe you see him more earlier than not. But I don't think he plays a lot, at least to begin his career. And I think a lot of Wizards fans will be impatient with that, say, hey, we took this guy in the first round. Like, when are we going to see him out there on the floor more? Kind of like the way Keyshawn George was last year. But that gives me a little bit of confidence. Give him his time. Maybe he plays some games with the go-go. I know they said they're very keen on using the go-go for development this year, especially at the wing position. So to me, that kind of has Will Riley's name written all over it. But, that kind of remains to be seen.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, Ben, because Bilal's going to be out those first 2 weeks. And who knows, what if Cam Whitmore is balling out and there's going to be the idea of how we're going to try to decrease his minutes, but also we want to get Bilal back into play. So that's just an interesting headline that I'm looking forward to observe.
Yeah, and I think Bilal is going to be good. I think overall long term, I know there's more of the added pressure this year because of the contract extension that comes up in October next year, and now that they've added Cam Whitmore to the rotation and other wing pieces. I still think what Bilal brings to the table defensively is really something that this team sees a lot of value in. And ultimately, I think if he continues to play the way he has defensively, while also providing a little bit of a spark on offense at times the way he can, I think they still do have a vision for him long term. I don't think that's something that's going to die off after this year, as long as he's able to stay healthy for the remainder of the year, which I guess we could say is kind of a big if right now because he hasn't been able to do so through his first 2 years.
And again, you can't go into another year, Ben, where you have a season-ending injury. It's just 3 years in a row. It's a little concerning.
Yeah, 100%. Something really concerning right now for Wizards fans is what's brewing between Monumental Sports Network, YouTube TV, and Hulu. We're going to tackle that issue and what it means for Wizards fans when we get back here on Locked On Wizards. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with a brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move. Whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors, this is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan to stay motivated and reach peak performance. I love how the Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. The swivel screen is a game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. Pretty tough news to swallow right now for the Monumental Sports Network, and this is obviously big if you are a big Washington Wizards and Capitals fan, as YouTube TV and Hulu, which have become pretty dominant ways people will stream live sports in the past couple years, they will no longer carry Monumental Sports Network. That became effective actually last night. They were unable to reach a new agreement, and I think people have really started to feel the effects. It's still, I'm pulling up the exact numbers that you have right here in terms of the way people are going to watch. But the way essentially it works is now they're advertising that they want people to subscribe to their Monumental Plus thing, so you still have the access to watch the games. But overall, This is pretty tough because the lowered annual subscription dropped down to $179.99 per year. So in terms of monthly payment, it's not a huge decrease right there from Monumental offered, and I think a lot of Wizards fans are super ticked off from the sense where you're already paying for a streaming service like YouTube TV, like Hulu, and now you're going to have to pay potentially another $180 more just to watch all the Wizards and Capitals games. This is totally a really big blow, and I don't know what's going to happen from here, but I'm really, feeling sorry and down right now for a lot of the Wizards fans that are going to be unable to watch because of this.
And it also doesn't help, Ben, that the team is probably not going to be competing this year in the playoffs. So it's like, man, this is insane, especially since the season's just about to come around, and this hurts, bro. Like, again, I didn't think this was going to be a big thing to talk about, but when I saw it, the report, I'm like, wow, this is something that we have to talk about.
And tomorrow, we are going to have Troy Halliburton on the podcast. He recently, in his Substack, wrote an article where he kind of explained how he thinks this can actually be a positive thing for Monumental if they do make the correct pivots, essentially. Because what we know about Monumental, of course, part of this RSN model, regional sport networks, which have really gotten less and less popular. We've seen a bunch of them like Bowie Sports and just other regional sport networks that have really struggled through this new day and age of streaming because of the inability to be offered on a lot of these platforms. YouTube TV and Hulu saying, hey, not enough people are watching Wizards games. Not enough people are watching the Capitals. We can't really justify the deal that you guys want to have with us for us to carry you. And I know it's frustrating because at one point I had YouTube TV, I think my sophomore year of college, and I got rid of it because I was unable to watch Washington Nationals games. They never carried Masson, and I think Masson falls exactly into the umbrella of RSNs that are really struggling right now. The Nationals are finally getting out of that deal, so it's up in the air what they're going to do with their broadcasting rights. But it goes to show you that it's a really tough place right now in terms of regional TV. And if you're a Wizards fan out there that's affected by this, let us know in the comments and let us know what your plan is in order to watch all of these games, and if you're unable to do so. I actually worked this morning, so the past couple weeks I've been working on the Sports Junkies, which airs on Monumental Sports Network, and I got a bunch of calls today to the station saying, hey, what happened? I'm not finding you guys on YouTube TV. I'm not finding you guys on Hulu. And I was like, yeah, unfortunately, those two providers have dropped Monumental Sports Network. They're no longer working with one another, and you can't watch on that platform anymore. And they go, oh, wow, that sucks. I guess I can't watch the Junks anymore. So it goes to show you that this is a backbreaker for a lot of fans. If they're unable to watch the Wizards or the Capitals on one of these platforms, I don't think a lot of them are going to pay that $180 to watch these two teams. And I know the Capitals are good. You have Alex Ovechkin. They'll probably be a playoff team. But if you're just a Wizards fan, let's say you're out of market and you've developed a love for the Wizards for whatever reason, or you're just not a hockey fan, period, you just watch basketball. If you knew the Wizards were going to be that bad and you weren't interested in watching them every single night, why would you pay?
Yeah, no, it's, again, I don't know what they're going to do. It's a tough situation because at the end of the day, this Wizards team, especially since we think they're going to be more competitive, and then you have this type of news coming out, it's just pretty disappointing. And let us know your thoughts in the comment section. You're a Wizards fan, whether you're from Virginia, D.C., Maryland, DMV area, or you're out. What's your next course of action?
It's just crazy, and I really hope there's going to be some sort of solution in a way that Wizards fans are able to watch all these games, because I think ultimately, without the wins being part of the equation, I think they're going to be exciting. I think there's going to be a lot you can look for on any given night for this basketball team through 82 games. You're hopefully going to see Trey Johnson make a case for the Rookie of the Year campaign. Should be a lot of fun, and I don't want anybody to miss out on it. Of course, if you're unable to watch the games, we'll be your coverage that can lead you through it, try to break down what happened the night before as we continue to do this thing 5 days per week. But I feel like everybody deserves the opportunity to really go out and watch these young guys go at it every single night, AB.
Of course, you got to be able to watch Trey Johnson's rookie year.
You got to do it. You got to do it. All right, we want to thank everyone for making Locked On Wizards your first listen today and every single day. Be sure to subscribe, like the video, and let us know if you are an everyday listener, because we appreciate you that much more as we continue to roll toward the regular season. Just 3 weeks away, until the opener for the Washington Wizards. We cannot wait to have the coverage for you. For your second listen, be sure to check out the Locked On NBA podcast to stay up to date with everything going on around the association. Jonathan Kuminga finally signed. I guess somehow he's back in Golden State, I guess, and something that we didn't expect to see, but that's just the way it goes. All right, Wizards Nation, we're the Locked On Wizards podcast, and we're out.